What does all that mean? There's all kind of numbers, lines, and blocks, and diamonds, and all kind of stuff on this. You know, it's really interesting. Hello, this is Henry with Woodworking by LPI. Welcome back to my channel. I appreciate you taking a little time out of your day to spend here on the channel and learn things about woodworking and more specifics in my case with regard to wood signs and wood sign creation rather. So, if you get a chance and you want to learn a little more about woodworking and specifically more with wood signs and tools and such, visit my my YouTube channel and look at the other videos that we have out there. There's several other videos, and we're continuing to make more videos with regard to techniques, tools, and all kind of stuff that I'm sure will be greatly beneficial, especially if you're starting out. I started out there myself, and believe me, I know a lot of mistakes along the way. I enjoy working with wood, and hopefully this helps you out. Okay, enough of all that fun stuff. What are we talking about today? Okay, well today we're talking about tape measures and how we can read a tape measure and what are the marks on it, and it's kind of crazy. Okay, so I'm sure you've seen one of these. Yeah, right, I'm sure you have. And we measure with all kind of things. We measure with the tape measure. Some folks still use the square, which I still do. And then you have a speed square, okay? And then you have, you know, one of these that you measure if you measure along for construction, okay? And then okay, you're kind of getting the idea. Okay, there's all different forms of tapes and tape measures, okay, and different ways that we can do this. And you know, nothing wants to cooperate, especially when if it's got a hose or a string to it. Believe me, I can catch it on I can catch it on something. There's all kind of different forms and things that we use to measure things with. Okay, and the tape measure is the primary thing that we use in our shop to measure with. Okay, but really when it comes down to it, what we want to know is the basic rule. Measure twice and cut once. I have a t-shirt that says that, I think, but anyway. So what does all that mean? I mean, we got marks, red marks, black marks, little marks, big marks. You know, that it can really be confusing. So let's jump into how we can decipher some of this and hopefully help you out to make things a little easier and a little quicker, because we all know that things take time. And using this tool a little more efficiently can really make your day. Believe me, it really can make your day. Because I'm not good with adding numbers in my head really quickly, but this helps out immensely. So, and we'll get into that. All right. So enough of all like that. Like I said, okay, there are different types of tape measures, and if if you want more information on this, and I'm going to get into, because it'd take too long to go into the video. I try and keep the videos as short as I can. I'm not always successful at that, but I try. I have my article here, okay, trying to help me along the way in the video, just to make sure I'm telling you as much as I can in a high level. But you can go to what do the marks mean on a tape measure on my blog at www.woodworkingbylpi.com, and you can select that article on the blog. Okay, so that'll help you out a lot. Good information there. Okay, so let me take the camera here and I'll show you some of these different types of tape measures. Okay, so we have, and by the way, this is all the imperial measuring system, okay? This does not show or reflect the metric. Okay? And as you can see, there's different types of tape measures. Okay, even down to this one here, which is used more actually in construction, you know, and this is the 100 foot. And hopefully I mentioned it, but if I didn't, like I said, it comes out in, you know, 100 foot, 25, 12 foot, 50, 75. They all come out in different sizes, okay? But they're basically the same concept. Okay? Now, looking at it, and I hope I can do this. I hope this all comes out okay on the camera. As we look through that, and we look at the imperial measuring system, like I said, not the metric system, and I apologize, I don't have a metric tape measure here. But I will tell you this, some of the tape measures you can buy do have the imperial on the top and the metric on the bottom. Okay, so If you're looking for the metric system, that'll help you out. You might want to, specifically when you go to purchase one, look at make sure you have that. Metrics by itself, or the imperial on top and metric on the bottom. So kind of a sub note there. But as we look through the tape measure, we see all these numbers, okay? Of course, you start over here with the 1, and you go up to 12, which is indicated by a black diamond. Now, I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to push this down here so you can see just a little better. 12 inches measuring out to a foot. And this here comes in different types of markers. So this one here happens to be an arrow. You can also see it in blocks of black, and it'll indicate, 1F or 1 foot. If you look over here, 16 is marked in red. 16 is marked in red. What does the 16 marked in red mean? Okay, well, when you're doing a lot of walls and studying and such for walls, and you're building a home, you want to do things. You want to do things in 16 on center. And a lot of your studs in your walls are 16 on center. So if you're setting a board down and you're measuring this out, 16 on center is where you're going to put your stud. And this goes on, as you can see. If you go on down here, you can see it's at 32. So it'd be 16, 16, 32, and et cetera, all in measurements of 16. Now, the importance of that is if you have a long wall, say for example a 12-foot wall, it's so much simpler to mark off, put the tape out, and just mark off 16, 32, and et cetera, on down the line, laying the tape out once, as opposed to measuring out 16 by 16 by 16, which is not efficient for one, and two, the measurement may not be accurate. Okay, and this makes sure it's accurate. Excuse me. So we've talked about the big numbers, okay, which are inch, which are indicated by the big line. And we talked about how 12 inches, of course, equals a foot. We've talked about the red mark here indicating 16, which would be measurement for studding, for example. If you're sitting in studding, does that to be represented as stud? This to be your bottom plate, and this to be your stud. Okay, there are a lot of other marks on here as well. Okay, all these tape measures, and these are DeWalt by chance. Okay, I'm not sponsored by DeWalt, but these just happen to be DeWalt. All of your tape measures have the same characteristics. It indicates that it's 25 feet long. Okay, and then it has the feet, and then you have these small numbers right here. And okay, what are these numbers right here? Well, these numbers right here are 1 foot, 1 inch. And as you go down, it goes all the way over to 11 inches and then 12 inches, which is 2 foot. And then 2 foot. See if you can see. I hope that light's not reflecting there. It goes 2 foot, 1 inch, and then it repeats. So, for example, if you're wanting to measure out 1 feet 6 inches, pardon me, you don't have to remember that 1 feet is 12 inches, and then 6 inches would be 18 inches. You can just look here and go 1 foot and then count the red numbers all the way down to 6. And it happens to be 18 inches. Now, hopefully this is making sense. I'm not trying to insult your intelligence. My intent is to look at it from a novice perspective and to show what the marks represent on the tape measure to make it a little easier and speed up your measurement time. I mean, the old rule of, measure twice, cut once still applies. Believe me, but these little shortcuts just help out immensely. Okay, so let's move on. Let's see what the other marks are. Okay. Goodness, excuse me. I'm so sorry. As you look right here, you'll see that there are small marks, a little bigger mark, a little bigger mark in between each inch. Okay, so what do all these little marks mean? Well, I can tell you each one of these marks is a 16th. On this tape measure, they do have tape measures that go down to the 32nd, but these are 16ths. So from here, which is the mark on the 4, to the first little mark is a 16th. And then the next mark, which is just a little bigger, represents an 1/8. So if you really want to go by size-wise, it starts at the half, which is halfway between 4 and 5, which is an inch. So you'd be 1/2 inch here, and then you can break it up into quarters. So it'd be from here to this mark, which is a quarter, which is just a little smaller than a half. and then another quarter would be half, and another quarter would be 3/4, and then the full inch. Because we all know, that 4/4 make up an inch, and 2 halves make up a full inch. I know, it's like going back to school again, and I just lost my light. So I hope that it, excuse me, didn't go too dark. So I'm going to try and finish the video anyway, because my battery went out of my light. So it's if you're an older gentleman like me, and you have kind of trouble seeing some of that, unless you're wearing the spectacles, the glasses and such, you can get a different tape measure that reflects it marking on the tape itself. So let's take a look at that one. Right here, you can see, I'm going to go by the example of 1 inch from 4 to 5 again. You can see, as opposed to looking at these hash marks up here, you can look specifically, and I'm going to try and get this in so you can see it. See, you have the 16th and you have 1/8 each, so it'll be represented by 1/8, quarter, 1/8, half, 1/8, 1/8, 3/4, etc. So if you're looking at and you want to measure off a cut of 4 1/4, it'd be 4 and then 1/4. See, because it actually has the markings on the tape measure itself showing you the measurements in the fractions. So you don't have to, because this here and this here are the same thing. But down here it has the nice marks. So you don't have to be really smart with regard to looking at the numbers. You can have a tape measure that actually shows you the numbers. So if you're wanting to measure off, 4 1/8, it's already marked on the tape measure. See? Makes it a lot easier, believe me, especially if you got old eyes like me. Okay. So we've talked about the inch. We've talked about, the marks, the hash marks on here, representing, 1/16 of an inch per mark, 1/8, quarter, half, 3/4, 7/8, and etc. all the way up. Okay. So hopefully that made sense. Let's look at some of the neat features on a tape measure, because I've talked about the basics. Let's look at some of the neat features on a tape measure that you probably didn't know existed. I didn't know they existed. And when I found out that they existed, it really made my job a lot easier. It was kind of like a revelation. So let's go to that. So let's look at this end right here. Okay. Now you can see, now it's kind of common sense that you would look at this end right here and see if I can get a better shot. Common sense here to look at this edge and see that, hey, this edge is going to catch on a piece of wood. So we're going to put it over this piece of wood and it catches, right? And I'm probably doing a horrible example there, but you can see how it catches and you can hold it there, to do your measurement. So, okay, so you're going to measure 4 1/4, for example. This thing here is really nice because it catches on this end, It's really nice because it catches on that end over there. So I'm going to measure 4 1/4. So I know I'm at 4, and then this mark here represents 1/4. Or if I want to go 4 1/2, or 4 3/4, right? Or if we can use the other handy dandy one. Okay, so if you kind of want to cheat, which is something, that I don't mind doing if I'm measuring, you can see on here that these are, or if you want to cheat, you can use this one here, which if I can hold it here at the same time, you can see that it's represented by 1/4, and then 1/2, and then 3/4. Okay, and it's actually marked on there, as opposed to this one, which is not, and you have to memorize, what those markings mean. All right, so we know that this end down here is what for catching it, for holding the tape measure on. What else is that thing used for? Okay, well, did you notice that this end here moves? It moves in. I don't know if you can see that or not. It moves in and out. And it's pretty consistent with all of them. See how that's a better representation right there. Okay, now, why would it move? Is it broke? Well, that's what I thought when I first saw it. I thought, well, no, this thing's broke. Should I take it back? No, it's not. It's not broke. In actuality, it's intended to be that way. It's intentional. And it's intentional to move because it represents 1/16 of an inch. All right, now I know I'm going to explain this, okay? So, as you're measuring, here, I'll go to the easy one. As you're measuring with the tape measure and you pull on this, that end is going to pull. Now, I don't know if you can see that or not. Hopefully I can hold it there. But see how the tape moved? It's really kind of hard to do that with one hand. See how the tape moved from, on this space right here? Because this is not truly an inch from here to there. It's an inch from here to the back face of this. So this thing moved out a 1/16 of an inch. Okay, so when you're pressing against something, what I want you to watch is I want you to watch that space right there. Okay, I'll move the camera in just a little bit. Okay, so what I want you to do now is to see how this thing moves. You've seen how you pull it because it represents an inch from here to there. This thing has moved out a 1/16 of an inch. Now, granted, a 1/16 of an inch is between that line and that line. It's really, really small. But when I push it against this board, you're going to see that move inward. And it's really subtle, so hopefully you can see this. Hopefully you saw that move in. Okay, so it moves out a 1/16 of an inch when you hook it on something, and it pushes in on a 1/16 of an inch when you press it against something. And why does it do that? Well, the reason it does that is because it's giving you an accurate measurement. The tip on the end of this thing is not broken. It's not broken. It's set that way intentionally to give you the accurate measurement. Okay, so you probably didn't know that that thing moved, but it does. And to be honest with you, when I saw it move, I thought, well, this thing's broken. No, it's not broken. It's intentional. Okay, so now let's look at the next little thing on the tape measure that you probably didn't notice. Have you ever looked at this thing as far as what it says on it? So if you're in a tight spot and you're measuring something up against a wall, so for example, and I know I'm making a mess over here, so I'm trying to keep it straight. I'm gonna move this thing off here. So if you're measuring up against something, so say your hand can barely get into something, or you're in an area that you can't bend the tape measure. Okay. So what you're basically doing is you're putting the tape measure up against whatever you're trying to measure up against. Okay. And you don't see people do this, but the tape measure case itself has a measurement to it. So if you're measuring out to the end of this board, for example, and the only way you can measure it is by placing this thing down here like so, well, how much is that? Okay, well, on the back, down here in the bottom, okay, down here in the bottom, on most of your tape measures, it'll tell you the measurement of the case from here to here. And it's indicated by that right there, that measurement right there. Hopefully you can see that. There's a measurement listed right there. And that tells you the distance from there to there. Now, not many people probably know that actually the case itself tells you the width of the case. And it's really helpful when you get in those tight spots and you can't bend it and you don't trust yourself to bend the tape and give yourself an accurate measurement. So placing against the wall, and you already know the measurement of this, you add this to the measurement reflecting upon the tape that's coming out the end here. It gives you an accurate measurement. So that's an interesting note. Okay, let's look at a couple more. All right. Okay, so let's look at another interesting item with regard to a tape measure that you may not know. Can you see the end of it? It has a slot right there. Right there in the end, it has a hole. Okay, and what I'm showing you is basically, what I'm showing you is this slot right there. Okay, so what is that slot for? Well, it's not for hanging the tape measure, although I've seen that. It's kind of funny, actually. But it's actually meant for a purpose. So if you're measuring something long, for example, and you're by yourself, it's really hard to measure something and that tape measure keeps falling off the end. I'm sure you've experienced that, where you continually put things on the end and it just falls off and falls off. So this helps you with that. What it does is it goes over the head of a screw or a nail. So let's take a peek at that. Okay, so as I mentioned, you know, with regard to the slot on the end, it's meant to go over a screw head or a nail head. Okay, so let's take a look at that in effect. If you're measuring something with a screw or a nail, for example, okay, and you know this is the measurement that you're making. Okay, hopefully you can see that. I'm going to bring it up a little closer. And you're doing this on a long board, and you're by yourself, especially, you know, that thing continually falls off. You know, it doesn't want to hold on to things, you know, or the tape, you know, catches around. It's always aggravating. Okay, now I'm not talking about the screws. I'm talking about how it holds on to the end. You know, how it holds on to this end right here. Sometimes, you know, you get a smaller tip, you know, like that one or like that one, or not like necessarily a big one like that, but, you know, they don't hold on real well. Okay, so I'm going to take this slot and I'm going to put it over the head of this screw here, and it's on my mark. Of course, this is a demonstration, but I'm going to put it right over that screw right there, and see how it holds that right there. And then I could pull my tape, you know, the length that I want to pull it, and I can do that with a screw, a temporary screw, or I can do it with, you know, as you see the head here, I'm going to do it with the head of the nail as well. Okay, so that slot really does quite a bit, doesn't it? And, you know, it's another one of those things you just take for granted. You know, they incorporate so much into this tape measure to help you out that you didn't know. And once you do know it, believe me, it helps you out immensely. Okay, your time gets really punched. Okay. All right, so we've gone over a few of those things. I got one more little trick I want to show you. Okay. And it has to, again, do with the end over here. Okay, so as we talked about, this end does several functions. Okay, I'm going to bring it up a little closer. This end does several functions. All right, so we have the slot, and we have how it moves. You know, how it moves. You know, 1/16 of an inch either way. Okay, and how it holds, and how it holds on. How it holds on. Okay, look at the bottom edge here. See how it has this mark right here and this bottom edge. You ever had one of those really bad days, and I know we've all had them, where you can't find a tool, you can't find, it just, wow, right? Okay, well, this thing acts as a marker. Now, it's not the grandest of marker, but in a, you know, in a moment of panic, when you get that perfect measurement and you haven't got the trusty pencil, it marks for you. Okay, so I'm going to try this out. So this is a mark that a pencil would make. Okay, let's take the bottom edge of the tape measure, and if you press down on it, now hopefully you can see that. So you can see the mark made by the tape measure, you can see the mark made by the pencil. And they're both useful for cutting, but in that spur of the moment when you don't have the pencil or something on you and you got that perfect measurement, you may see there's all kind of features. The tape measure was truly created for woodworking and construction, and there's so many features on this that you probably didn't know. I know I didn't know a few of them, but it really makes your day when you start using it the way it was designed to be used. And hopefully all this information helped you out so you can better use the tape measure. Okay, well, I probably should be holding that correctly, right? Sorry. Hopefully use the tape measure, you know, a little better, and it'll benefit your time and effort with regard to measuring. Because remember, measure twice, cut once. Yeah. Or measure once, measure once. Anyway, no, it's measure twice, cut once. Anyway, so I hope this helped you out. I hope this was some value. Let me put you down over here. Put the camera down, rather. So I hope this helped you out. I hope it gave you some value. And remember, if you get a chance, check out the YouTube channel. There are other videos on other tools and other techniques, and we're going to continue to provide those to you on this channel from a novice or beginner's perspective. Again, this is Henry with Woodworking by LPI. I really appreciate your time for watching today and coming to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.